Hey, what is up, everybody? I am Jason, and you're watching my channel, Micro Investor. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at NIO's third quarter 2020 financial results. Now, this is the biggest quarter that NIO has ever had to report. Over these last 3 months, NIO stock has just been insane. And there's been a lot of new investors that have jumped into this stock, which has really helped grow the stock price a lot. So a lot of people are bullish on NIO. So this one is a really big deal. Now, if you're somebody that is new here on my channel, it's the first time you're seeing me, I have been making videos here on YouTube for probably close to 3 years now. I have made close to 400 videos, and I have made many of them talking about NIO all the way back to the IPO. I'm a long-term investor into many different EV stocks, and NIO is one of those. I've been buying in the NIO since the IPO, all the way down to when NIO was below $2 a share, and continue to buy in back up. So there's plenty of videos to look into here if you guys want to freshen up on your research. Now, as we get into this, if you guys don't mind, please do me a huge favor and please be sure to smash, destroy, and annihilate that like button because it does help me out with the YouTube algorithm and it helps spread this video to more people that might find it interesting. And also subscribe if you have not already. Now let's get to this. So let's look at NIO's financial highlights for the third quarter of 2020. Now the vehicle sales were $628.4 million US in the third quarter of 2020, representing an increase of 146.1% from the third quarter of 2019 and an increase of 22.4% from the second quarter of 2020. Now, one of the most important things on here is their vehicle margin, which was 14.5% in the third quarter of 2020, compared with negative 6.8% in the third quarter of 2019 and 9.7% in the second quarter of 2020. Now, that is a big deal because they need to get these margins up higher so they can be more profitable in making their vehicles. Now let's look at their total revenue, which was $666.6 million. Wow, that's an interesting number. In the third quarter of 2020, representing an increase of 146.4% from the third quarter of 2019 and an increase of 21.7% from the second quarter of 2020. So the interesting thing is that they had such a large increase from third quarter 2019 to compared to the third quarter of 2020. And this is when we're in a pandemic. This is a lot more things that are going on in the realm. And they managed to increase the revenue 146.4% during a pandemic. That just tells you something that this company is really growing and they really do mean business. Now, to some people looking at the revenues from the third quarter of 2019 to the third quarter of 2020 and probably going, of course, the revenue is going to be 150% more than it was that time last year. But realistically, if you think about where NIO was last year at this time, NIO was a company that was possibly going to be going bankrupt. Their stock was in just terrible trouble. And a lot of people were not invested into it. A lot of people are always talking garbage about NIO. A lot of people had talked about garbage trash about NIO back then are now talking positively about NIO, if you think about that. And we're in a pandemic, so NIO has managed to ride out the possibility of going bankrupt and continue to grow their business all the way through a pandemic. That is why NIO stock is such a big deal. That's why so many people are talking about NIO. Not just because it's an electric vehicle company in China and it's competing with Tesla in the Chinese market. That's not why. Because if NIO was not doing good, no one would be talking about the company. People are talking about NIO because their stock went up over 2,000% in just a short period of time. Now, NIO is not a company that is income positive. NIO is still a company that is losing money, but that is shrinking. NIO's net loss was $154.2 million in the third quarter of 2020, representing a decrease of 58.5%. So that is getting better. That is getting much better. From the third quarter of 2019, a decrease of 11% from the second quarter of 2020, excluding share-based compensations expenses, adjusted for net loss, non-GAAP, was $147 million in the third quarter of 2020, representing a decrease of 59.3% from the third quarter of 2019 and a decrease of 11.8% from the second quarter of 2020. So they're getting closer and closer to being an income producing company. Now keep in mind this is the third quarter here, so this ended on September 30th, 2020, and NIO has done a lot since September 30th. Now, when this quarter ended, NIO had cash and cash equivalents, restricted cash, and short-term investments that were $3.3 billion as of September 30th, 2020. Now, more than likely, NIO has spent a good amount of that cash that they had on hand because NIO didn't start deliveries of their EC6 until the very end of September. And October was the first full month of the EC6 deliveries, and it was also the first month where they delivered over 5,000 vehicles. 5,055 vehicles to be exact were delivered in October 2020, and that was their record-breaking month for deliveries. Now let's look at how many vehicles NIO has delivered in all of its previous quarters. So quarter 4 2018, you can see that NIO delivered close to 8,000 vehicles that quarter. And then quarter 1 2019, they delivered about half as many as they did in quarter 4 2018, and the numbers were down even more in quarter 2 2019. And that's when things started to look bad for NIO. Same thing going into Q3, they still didn't have any sort of impressive numbers. They had better numbers than Q2 2019, but when you have this big number over here, you know, you're going to be looked at for that. So there was a lot going on, a lot of problems with NIO that was going on in 2019. That was when their stock was super low. Now things did kick into high gear after Q4 2019 was reported, and they delivered 8,224 vehicles. But you can see that there's a little bit of a trend here. Look at this Q4 right here. Look at that. Deliveries were a lot more in that quarter. Now, Q1 2020, this is when the pandemic happened. We can't really compare anything to this because, of course, it's going to be less than Q1 2019 because they were shut down. Tesla was shut down. You know, the entire world was shut down a lot during this quarter. But in Q2 2020, very explosive quarter. Over 10,000 vehicles were delivered. And then quarter 3 2020, over 12,000 vehicles that month. So you know what I'm going to expect here with Q4 2020? I'm going to expect an explosive number like we see here where, you know, their Q4 was a lot more deliveries. So with all that being said, I'm expecting explosive numbers from NIO here on out. I'm expecting NIO's Q4 2020 to be over 16,000 vehicles delivered, which I think is very possible with them delivering over 5,000 vehicles in October. And as we know, the end of the year, there is a much larger push to deliver more vehicles. And I also expect NIO to continue to do very well with the more vehicles that they're selling with their subscription service, their batteries as a service, and especially with them just releasing their 100 kilowatt hour battery. There's going to be a lot more people that are going to be interested in that battery that are going to want to sign up for battery as a service. And now since the Q3 report has just been released, I'm expecting that there might possibly be some pullback in the stock, which is something that could realistically happen since a lot of things might have been priced into the stock with it going up so much, but I expect that to just be a short-term thing and it continue to accelerate from there. And speaking of short-term, those short sellers, they didn't have any luck with their attempt on shorting NIO stock. And also, I expect those $2 shares of NIO that I bought last year to turn into $200 shares in the next 5 years. That's how bullish I am on NIO. I just see great things coming. Anyways, everybody, I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on NIO. What do you think about the Q3 report that just came out, and where do you see NIO going from here? So as always, everybody, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. New videos coming out on my channel all the time. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you all in the next video coming very soon.